This is Sammy's comfort zone. We have decided after shooting our
non-verbal consent is not enough.
So today on the show, the argument here is basically if you can also catch me on Instagram at S4_SAMZ. Or you can inbox the Sammy's Comfort Zone Instagram.
It's your girl Sammy, and this is Sammy's Comfort Zone. So yeah, we're gonna get straight into it. I'm just gonna introduce the first panel. You guys have seen the bios on Instagram. If you haven't, go follow me on Instagram at Sammy's Comfort Zone. Okay, so the first panel consists of 3 gentlemen and 1 beautiful lady. Now I'm so excited because she's the only female on the panel. I mean, hello. Yeah. So help me introduce Steven, the founder of Act to Fun. Next one, he was using all the grinding and the, you know. By the way, we're taking bookings for any parties. He's a stripper, if you guys need to.
2,000 euros an
The
hour.
PhD stripper, you know. Please help me welcome Joshua. He's a 5-time comedian in the world. So now I'm going to introduce Gabriel, the angel. I kind of owe him a lot, you know. Okay, so that one thing. Yeah.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, no, that's for me.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Do you mind sitting there so I can sit next to the coffee?
You know what? That's absolutely fine.
I don't need to say much, but her cakes will do the speaking for her right at the back. This is News Cakes Open News. I want you guys to interact with the panel. I want you guys to be a part of it. So if you feel like you want to ask a question, be free to put up your hand. If the time fits, if the panelists, if it's in sync, you know, they'll answer your questions. If you're paying them 2,000. Okay, no. He's cancelled. But yeah, please do feel free to interact and enjoy. This is Sammy's Comfort Zone. Okay, so the water's not for decoration. You guys can literally drink it. Can you guys see us? Yeah, in the back. It's too low, isn't it? This is how you make your neck stronger. Like you have to stretch. Okay, so welcome to Sammy's Comfort Zone. I'm gonna ask you guys to just introduce yourself and your line of work for a minute, please.
Hey guys, my name is Stephen Kinley. I'm the co-founder of Actifun.com. We're an activities booking platform that helps you find and book unique things in 4 clicks with best price guaranteed and no booking fees. I've been living here for 15 years and I absolutely love what I do.
My name is Joshua Manoloni. I work at Accenture as an operations specialist. I work in with different types of companies. Most of the time I write and love reading and swimming.
Are you married?
Huh?
They were drooling when you were saying it, right?
No, I'm not married.
He's not married. Do you have a girlfriend?
No, I don't.
What do you want? Oh, I'm on your guest.
Single and ready to
Rachel?
My name is Abonu, some people call me Rachel. I work in JP Morgan as a project manager and a change operational project manager as well. I also bake. I do news cakes. You can check it out on Instagram. I'm also completing my master's at the moment.
Gabby.
Hi, I'm Gabby. No, I'm not. I'm Gabriel. To some people, I'm Gabby, evidently. I was previously in the knowledge marketplace industry, but I've left it to seek opportunities elsewhere. I'm also an actor and a sometimes writer, and my inclusion on the panel was a bit of a surprise, but we'll see where it goes.
You know, when they're expecting somebody, I'll just be like, surprise. So we're going to get straight into it because we are behind time. The topic that we're discussing in panel 1, so the whole theme for this show is shaping our society. So the way we're brought up and what we go through in our lives shape who we are and shape who we become. And who we become is the contribution that we give within our society. So the part that you play in the society shapes the society. So if you're a project manager, you're shaping the society. You know, you're baking cakes. I mean, you make your girl fat, but we're shaping the society. You don't shape exactly. You know, taking the society. But that is the whole concept of this talk show today. So, yeah. The first panel, this is it, is going to be talking about the concept of nature versus nurture. What you go through, do you think that like your society shapes who you are, or the way you're born makes you who you are? The likes of LGBT, people that are gay, are they born gay, or does the environment make them gay? That's not a question. This is me explaining the concept. Okay, so the question is, do you think that we are brought up how we are brought up is the way defines how or where we end up in life? So we can start by anyone answering this.
You can start first.
I know you're excited about this topic.
I guess I am, yes. I think it's a very, it's not an easy question to answer. The question of nature versus nurture. My belief is that for most part, both shapes who we are, and it depends on what characteristics we're talking about. So personal experiences do determine who you'll be, but also there are other factors that may not be in our control, like depression, for example, can be passed down, but as well, society, your life in society and how you live your life might make you depressed. So I think it's a bit of both.
Okay. Steve?
I agree with Josh. Yeah, definitely your family has an effect on who you become. I'll bring a bit of personal life into it. I was born in Togo, and in Togo, you're supposed to really respect your adults, just like anywhere else in this world. But we put a lot of emphasis on respecting our adults and being submissive, especially to older people. And I feel like this affected me a little bit when I was growing up. It affected me in the way that I interacted with the likes of investors, or the way I interacted with clients, just because I was really respectful, you know. But I felt like, hey, you can be respectful and still, you know, be a little bit cheeky.
Tell the truth.
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, and yet on the nature part of things, on the nurture part of things, I feel like books that I've read and just going deep within myself has also shaped who I am now.
Perfect.
And will shape my future.
I would agree with both Stephen and Josh. Yeah. Even just starting from the basics with the family you're born to. Mm-hmm. Like if you take someone that was born into a high income family versus someone that was born like in low income, automatically the person already has like a couple of steps forward in life in comparison to that person, and then it's up to the person in like the lower class to actually decide, you know what, I want to work hard, but also they might decide, you know what, I'm happy with this life and I'll continue in this. So like just different factors in your environment, you can't blame yourself because that's where you found yourself. But then again, if the individual is strong-minded, you could decide, you know what, no, I don't want this for myself, I want a better life. Like you read stories of people that founded companies, like their grandfathers or people before they didn't found the company, they realized, okay, you know what, I don't want this life anymore. And from that decision, it's affected future generations, and those guys are now set up for life. Yeah.
Gabriel?
Pretty much the same as the others. It's one of those questions that, I mean, it's both a yes or no. It probably depends a little bit on, you know, what you're talking about. But for something so broad as the question of who you are, as a person, it's definitely both, because everyone is a combination of the experiences that they've had, and that's the nurture aspect of things. But at the same time, there are some features that you're kind of born with that can predispose you to specific certain tendencies. So say, for example, I don't know, if you have someone that's born with a heightened tendency towards violence, a heightened tendency towards psychosis or something like that, the fact that they have those possibilities within them, like everyone does, everyone has various possibilities, but you pick a certain standard of a person that has a certain standard of qualities. Whether or not they reach the potential of those qualities is not a given. It's determined by the family they're born into, the schools that they go to, the experiences that they have with the child, the amount of stress they have in their formative years. It's dependent on how they learn how to cope with stress. It's dependent on the things that they face going forward. It's dependent on how they respond to all that, and it all kind of just boils together to make specific decisions, specific impulses, specific impacts on different areas of life. So to use that example of violence or psychosis or something along those lines, because there are definitively genes that are responsible for these things. Someone that's born with those tendencies might not necessarily become a hugely violent person. It just means they're more likely to be so given a specific set of circumstances. So you take someone, for example, that's born with a tendency leaning towards a lot of very antisocial behavior. I wouldn't say a tendency, because there's lots of factors that kind of affect those things. You put them in a home where they're constantly being abused, their family is constantly being abused, where they're under the influence of drugs, under the influence of alcohol, they're low income, and that's the majority of their years. And all of those stressors kind of culminate, kind of push them closer and closer toward a goal that was closer to them to achieve in the first place. So again, it's a bit of both, and it's really difficult to pinpoint exactly which one is the defining feature in each of those cases. But what Manu said, some people definitely can be strong-willed enough to get past the experiences, get past the influences that they've had in their lives. But at the same time, I feel very strongly that many people often expect people to have that strength, and that strength is not something that's necessarily intrinsic to anyone. It's not a difficult thing to overcome all the experiences that you've had and all the decisions that you've made previously to them to kind of lead you towards a better path than you were previously heading on before, if that makes sense. Apologies.
So we're done. He took all my points. So no, that's true. I believe that who you are and who you're born to be are two different things. So who you're born to be is your genes, and how God, because I believe in God. I'm not on the science side of life, but I believe that God has a plan for you, and He sets a path for you, and then the way you're raised now defines whether you follow that path or you drift away from that path. So the next question then goes to say, to what extent would you blame nurture versus nurture for your outcomes? That means that the way you are now, like you spoke about how your genes could be really good, you spoke about how you could be born in a rich family. So if I was born in a poor family, I can still become better because I can go to school, I can become better, I can choose a different path. So the question is, does the nature versus nurture define, or can we use it as an excuse for how we end up in life?
No.
I was gonna say, when I started secondary school, I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to absorb information from books. And some people might think that is a given, but obviously I can read a book, I can open a book, but there's method to actually studying and retaining the information. And that's something that you have to be taught. And with that tool, you can therefore learn to study and improve yourself. So even though I wanted to do better, it wasn't until 5th year where we had a study seminar and they showed us. So even though I wanted to improve myself, I didn't have the tools. And I think that's where nurture is. Nurture is what will give some people the tools. Some people would know instinctively, but a lot of people wouldn't know how to do a lot of things without help from outside. And so I think nurture determines what part of our natural traits will come out. So nurture can be more important because it's what we have control of.
Yeah. Anyone else want to answer that?
I was going to say that yes and no, you can't blame. If you look at someone that was born, like, you know, some women, they're pregnant, they're taking drugs, and when they give birth, the baby is literally shaking because they've been withdrawn from that. You can't really blame the child then, or the child can't be like, oh, well, like, what can they do? Basically, that's their life set up for them. From that age, they might be born into addiction. They didn't even have one chance in life. But then you can't be like, oh, well, it's your fault, you didn't work hard enough. You don't know how difficult it was for that person and what they had to go through. Yes, eventually they might get to a state where they might be like, okay, you know what, I want something different. But you can't really blame them because they had zero control of the situation. And if you're born into a rich family, like, you don't get to choose your family. So it's like you can't really you can't fault people for blaming their circumstances because they didn't have a choice over it. But if they did, then you can be like, yeah, you should have chose better, but no one has that choice.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to go to the next part of it. Your chosen career path or your chosen hobbies or whatever you have interest in, you know, is that based on the way you were brought up or is that based on your nurture? Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
You look confused.
No. Again, it's a bit of both.
So I'm talking about your own personal experiences now.
Yeah. We'll go to my life. No, I think again it's a bit of both. I was just born into a really active family. You know, I was the middle child, so my brother in the crowd.
Are you saying that because he's here?
No. My brother would say I was the middle child, so my brother would ask me to clean his room for €5. I was really young back then, young and dumb. And my younger ones that were in primary school would say, "Hey, Stephen, help me with my homework." And my brother would be like, "Hey, listen, clean my room." So I was a really active child, active teenager, and I was always outside doing fun stuff, playing football, and whenever we were organizing things, I would always be the first one to knock on everybody's door to get them out to play. Tip the can, etc. So I was just a really active child, and I can say I'm blessed in the fact that I was a middle child. I'm happy. But starting Actathon was a little bit of that and a little bit of who I just wanted to become.
So basically, he's that child that knocks on everyone's door and you're like, they're having food right now, you can go home. Josh?
I think one of my favorite hobbies is reading. Yeah. I used to hate reading. For me, books were the worst things in the world up until I was like 10 or 11. And I think one of the reasons why I was inspired to read was because of my teacher. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't like stories, who doesn't like information, who doesn't like reading. And no, who doesn't like a lot of things we find in books. People watch movies, people like to learn in different ways. And I think what it is that I hated reading because for me, books represented something I wasn't used to. They were old stories, they were boring, until I found something that suited me, until my teacher started reading books that I was interested in. And that's kind of the nurture aspect. Not everything in life is for us or a particular aspect. We are all made in different ways, the way we absorb information. So a lot of books that I read now, I wouldn't have loved when I was younger, but I grew into it. A lot of people say they find it hard to pick up reading because they don't like reading books or this type of things, but that's because they haven't found what's right for them. So I think there's a nurture aspect to it. And there's a nature, so we have to find how we like certain things, like what type of medium we can take information from. But in terms of nurture, for example, the reason why I started reading books was because of my 6th class teacher. So
Nice. So that's people around you that shaped you to be that.
Yes.
Okay. Just jump over new as if she's
Oh,
not here.
apologies. I didn't realize we were going. You know what? Please, go ahead.
So women, we have to fight.
Thank you for calling it out.
Y'all control things. Women rule this world.
For me, it's actually funny because growing up I didn't have kind of tunnel vision on where I wanted to go. When I was completing like the CAO for Leaving Cert, I had nursing down, I had architecture down, I had chemistry down. Like, it was just a mess. And I just happened to find myself in a business course. Like, I was so nonchalant about it because I didn't even know what I wanted to do. And even in college, I was just doing college because it had to be done. It had to be done. And then when I kind of got to my final year, I was like, what am I actually doing? Like, I was doing enough to pass and everything was going well, but I was like, I have to leave eventually. So I kind of had to face reality. And I was looking for places to work. I kind of knew I wanted to end up in corporate because I'm like, okay, I want to climb the corporate ladder, be successful, be rich and all that. And I kind of had a vague idea. And when I was applying, I ended up in EY at first. And then when I was there, I was like, yeah, no, this is just not, it's not my personality. Yeah. And within JP Morgan, at first I just went because it's like, oh, it's a good company, looks good on your CV. But there's kind of where I kind of found myself. I realized, okay, I'm really good at being organized. That's my strength. And I manage projects, and I was like, okay, I'm actually really good at this. So I actually went and did the Prince 2 exams. I passed the foundation practitioner. I was like, you know what, maybe I can make a career out of this project management. It's very fluffy, so to say, but it does take some skills and understanding as well. And I realized in college, there was no like project manager, like job, you know, kind of that kind of way. It was kind of categorized into like finance, accounting, and so on. And then when I got in there, I kind of realized, you know what, I really like this and I'm actually good at it, and I'd like to see myself going down this line eventually. So that is how
it grew upon
me. Like when I showed my dad my CAO, he was just looking at me like, what's actually wrong with you? But he couldn't tell me what to do because he didn't know what I wanted to do, and he couldn't be like, oh, it looks like you're good at this or you'd like to do this. So I kind of just figured it out. But I think because I was proactive, like I took a chance when it came, I was able to be like, okay, no, I don't like this, I like this.
Do you think that was the nurture part of your life?
Oh,
that
definitely.
was directing you to where you should be?
Definitely, yeah. Because my dad comes from a HR background. My mom, she's into social care, so it was different contrast. My sister, she's in radiography, and my brother, he's in startups. So there was no defined, oh, I'll just do what this person's doing. It just kind of fell into place. But because I was proactive, I was able to kind of recognize my strengths and be like, okay, how can I make money off my strengths? And it's enjoyable to a certain degree.
Until we enjoy it, right?
Until the late. I don't know, like even with news cakes, it just happened as well, because I used to bake for friends and parties, and then she's like, why don't you just sell these, you could make money. Don't know why the thought never occurred to me, and that's kind of how it grew. And even when I was choosing my master's, I didn't want to do it in general project management, so I'm doing it in strategic management and innovation, because along with that, like the world is changing. So I was like, okay, how can I forecast this, that I can use this degree in 5 years, or even use it now if I do decide to leave JP Morgan. So I can kind of combine the project management aspect in strategic management, because companies are changing, you need to kind of adapt, and also innovation. It's very topical at the moment. So just with that, the experience of realizing I don't like this, I do like this, kind of just shake the tunnel for me a bit. Yeah.
Gabriel.
Thank you. Are you sure? Like,
I'm very sure.
It's difficult for me to answer really definitively. If I was just going to go on my own anecdotal experience, I would lean heavy on the it's nature kind of thing. But I kind of hesitate to do that because I have
you read too many books.
Yeah, maybe I read too many books. But also because there's nothing I can use to definitively prove that. I mean, my family, most of the people in my family, in my family anyway, have always been really kind of creatively inclined. But even with that said, growing up, like right since I was a kid, like 6, 7, 8 years old, my grandmother, my aunties, my uncles, my mother, they'd always call me doctor, and it was like you're kind of putting me in a specific path. Like, so right since I was a kid, I kind of heard that message straight away.
You heard the African message.
Exactly.
Be a doctor.
Exactly.
Be a nurse. Be this.
there's like 5 career paths, like doctor, engineer, businessman, lawyer,
accountant.
Exactly, you know what I mean. The really definitive things that have a specific path towards them. So mine was doctor. I think one of my other siblings, they always call him engineer. Hilariously, neither of us are any of those things.
I was expecting you to say now I hope you're like a PhD
No.
medicine. I'm like, oh.
I'll get to the point. It's just because, so you know, I came here, I got into school, I was always interested in science. You know, I was always good at it. You know, a bunch of other things. I did the Leaving Cert I did biology, I did chemistry. I went for medicine. I didn't get it, and then I decided it's cool. I'll do graduate medicine. So you know, I started doing biomedical science in college. But halfway through, I'm like, I had a period of really frank talks with myself, and I'm like, did you not get medicine
in that
because
voice?
Yes,
okay.
this was my inner voice talking. You know, it has a bit more bass, so there's more strength, there's more confidence.
Right.
I kid. No, so I'm like, listen, did we not get medicine because we couldn't do it, or because we didn't try hard enough to get it? And my instant answer to myself intrinsically was the second one. I'm like, okay, why didn't we really try hard to get it? And then the answer to follow that was, you don't really want it, you know? So kind of halfway through that, I was pretty clear, I was pretty definite that I didn't want to do medicine. So I finished that, and I didn't do that. I kind of went straight into the workforce, went into my first job. But all along that, at the same time, throughout my childhood, I've always been interested in storytelling in so many various different formats, primarily reading. Josh said his first experience or impetus for reading was his 6th class teacher. With me, I don't remember a time when I wasn't reading right from when I was a child. Like the first books that I probably read were, I think it was those Jack and Jill books that you read in Nigeria. I mean,
in Africa, hello.
Yeah.
We read them too.
Exactly, right? And then after that, I think the next author that I remember fully reading was Enid Blyton. It was like the Famous Four, the Famous Five, or something along those lines. But the point is, I've always had a memory of really enjoying reading. I've always had a memory of really enjoying stories. That's books, TV, films, whatever it is. At the same time, you know, I'm walking around my house, and all of us, we very frequently would just sing duets. I don't know, Obnu is very familiar with my family, and she gets very annoyed at the fact that sometimes we just break into
so
song.
it's just a bit of time.
Sorry, I'll get to the point. The point that I'm making is that it's really difficult for me to say nature. I'm more inclined towards nurture, but I think nurture can probably be split into a kind of conscious nurture and an unconscious nurture. And unconscious nurture being kind of the things that you experience really passively, that no one really kind of forces on you, the things that kind of just happen. And I think those are where my creative leanings kind of come from, versus the more conscious one, which is your parents saying, you know, listen, you got to do this, you can't do this, you can't do that, this is the course that you got to do. So I think I kind of
It sounds as if that's the
first.
perfect definition of nature versus nurture. Literally what you wanted and what people wanted for you. Yeah. So this is our first panel discussion. Do we have any questions in the crowd? Except for Joshua's number? Are we giving it up? Are we setting it up?
I don't have a phone.
Oh no, not in the show, love.
I don't do such things.
That means it could be after.
It could be after. You never know. Hang around. All right, thank you so much. This was fun. Any last comments? Don't force your kids to do things they don't want to do. Basically,
Except from eat broccoli.
except eat cakes and broccoli. But that was the concept. Oh yeah, question.
Well, I noticed there's no questions on the panel, in the crowd. So I'll just ask yourself and your brothers, right? Your brother and sister?
No.
Oh, me and Obnu? Oh, well, no, we're not brothers and
They're
sisters.
family friends, he said.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Well, I have a question for everyone on the panel. How do you think that, how your own society nurtured you to become the person that you are?
Can we answer that very sharply?
You got it.
Hints, Gabriel.
You got it, guys.
Oh, from this side this time.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, could you repeat the question a little bit?
How do you think, how do you think society or your family nurtured you into becoming the person that you are?
So I think I probably answered most of that in the last thing I said in the kind of conscious versus unconscious thing. So I think I leaned more towards.
I think
my
you were a bit
unconscious
stubborn with
nature.
your parents. That's how you ended
Yes,
up
I was very stubborn
in the
with my
right
parents.
direction.
I kind of listened to the stuff, the kind of creative impulses that were kind of in my life, as opposed to the things that I was pretty definitively shunted towards. So, I mean, I do think I had those influences, and I had the choice, and somewhere subconsciously I chose this one rather than this one.
Anyone
Was that
else
succinct?
want to
I think that was
answer
good.
it?
That was good.
Before we close up?
Good.
Thank you. That wasn't really giving you guys the Thank you guys. So we're gonna.
This is Sammy's comfort zone. We have decided after shooting our
Non-verbal consent is not enough.
so today our document here is basically, if you can also catch me on Instagram at S4_SAMZ, or you can inbox the Sammy's comfort zone Instagram.